Hello, everyone. Welcome to the DFW Drum Coach Podcast, episode number 1. I am your host, Caleb Barnett, and today I am joined by Ben Barnett, who is a very successful engineer and producer in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. In this episode, Ben talks about his studio and his experiences so far with drum recording. I hope you all enjoy what he has to say. Ben, thank you so much for being my first guest on the podcast.
Of course, dude.
Really,
my pleasure.
I really appreciate it. Thank you for helping me get all this set up and everything. And
yeah, we went through some trials, trial and error there.
Yeah, and we're going to probably continue to do that, but it's all good.
Testing out mics, different setups, different camera angles.
Yeah.
The whole shebang.
And thank you for allowing me to use your studio, which we're in right now.
Yep, of course.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about your studio?
Yes, we are at the Hang Studios in Fort Worth, Texas. This place has been around since October 2016, so we're going on year 3 right now. Yeah, October 2020 will be third year.
Yeah, sweet. And what all do you do out of here?
I kind of like to think of this place as a one-stop shop. You bring a song, an idea, a demo, whatever it may be, to me, and we kind of take it from this place of, it's whether it be an idea or a demo, and we take it from that and, ends up being a final project, a final product that you can put on Spotify, put on iTunes. So take the demo, go through production, do some pre-pro, get it to the recording phase, like where it's all arranged, and we can actually start recording things and multi-track it, however we need to do that. From there, it goes to mixing and then mastering, and then bam, you have a song.
Pre-pro means pre-production, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Very cool. So what all styles have you recorded and worked with here?
Oh, man. I try to be as versatile as possible. So I've done everything from jazz to metal to country to hip hop to pop. I've done a lot of pop recently.
Yeah.
It's kind of the music everyone's been, headed towards.
Yeah, that's awesome. You also do some like folk singer-songwriter stuff as well, right?
Yeah. I kind of touched on all different genres, and these days they're kind of melding together in different ways.
Mm-hmm.
So to me, honestly, it all just kind of seems like pop music. I mean, there's some outliers, like a metal song isn't going to be a pop song, but there are a lot of similarities between like a folk singer-songwriter song and like a straight up pop song and like an indie rock song.
Yeah.
Like they'll have pop elements to them.
For sure.
They're all striving to have a good melody, good chord progression, just things that, are pleasing to the ear.
Mm-hmm.
So I just kind of think of it all in the same way.
Do you also have like an input on the songwriting portion of it?
Sometimes. It depends. Honestly, there are a lot of artists I work with that come in, songs already ready, and I don't have to really do very much. I just let the band be the band,
mm-hmm.
and they do their thing, But there are times where, some artists need a little bit more help than others.
Yeah.
Whether they're just starting out or, they don't have the same amount of input from other people. So maybe it's a solo artist and, they've never recorded before.
Yeah, they've just been writing in their bedroom or something.
Yeah. So in those instances, I do tend to help out a little bit more with the arrangement, with the production, things like that.
That's good.
So I kind of make it a point to listen to the demo, the idea, figure out where the song's at, and like what my job is to get that song to that final product. So if that means me being super involved with it and getting it to that place, great. If it means me taking a back seat and letting the band do their thing, then great.
That's good. And that shows a lot of like maturity that where you need to step in at,
Well, yeah, there have been times where I've with the growing pains of any craft really, the trial and error. There've been plenty of times where I have been involved in a production that didn't really need a whole lot of my involvement.
Yeah.
And the songs ended up turning out great. Like, they sound fine, but you know, you go back and listen to some stuff you've worked on, and nowadays you listen to it now and you're like, I could have done something different there.
Oh,
or
that's
maybe I shouldn't have been as involved there.
gotcha.
You know.
Yeah. Shoulda, coulda, woulda.
Yeah, hindsight's 2020.
Exactly.
Hind ears.
Hindy.
Hind listening is 2020.
So, how did you get started in the whole production engineering world?
Okay. So I started out as a musician. Picked up bass. I think I was around 5th grade, so like 11, 12. Picked up bass. Within a year or two, I was picking up guitar as well. I had to learn all my favorite Guitar Hero 2 songs.
Right.
So naturally, I had to pick up the guitar and learn Rage Against the Machine, and you know. So once I picked up a couple instruments, you and I ended up jamming a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And from that, you know, comes original music. And I think I didn't really know what I wanted to do. We didn't really know what we wanted to do with those songs. But, you know, our dad had some recording equipment, and he brought it out one day, and you and I just like decided we wanted to see what a song sounded like being recorded.
Yeah.
So we set up a couple of random mics really terribly on your drum kit and on my guitar.
Pretty sure we had a 58 for an overhead mic or something.
Yeah, I don't remember what the exact setup was, but it ended up opening up my entire outlook of music, because once we ended up recording some of our original stuff, I kind of started hearing the potential of, you know, what can we add here? What can we add here? You know, let's make another track. Let's add a lead line.
It's like literally building something.
Yeah, we have guitar and drums and bass, but we don't have a vocalist. Let's get our buddy Austin to come and do some vocals with us.
Yep.
And yeah, the rest is history. You know, like once I kind of got started on that engineering production track, I never stopped.
Yeah.
I used that recording equipment that our dad brought out. I used that for like 2.5 years before I even got a computer with recording software on it. Because what our dad brought out was basically just a soundboard, but it had like recording software on it.
Yeah.
So that's what I learned on. Like I didn't know all the capabilities of like what recording through a computer and all the.
Well, and if I remember correctly, because it was the Roland 2480, right?
Yeah, VS 2480.
Yeah. So if I remember correctly, by the time that we inherited it and started using it, or you started using it,
yeah,
I think it was already like kind of obsolete.
Oh yeah,
so
that thing was not. I'm pretty sure that thing was being used in like the late '90s, early 2000s. I could be totally wrong about that. I have to look it up.
But what I was getting at is I don't know if you were able to like research on YouTube, like you weren't able to like troubleshoot and find out stuff on Google about it. So you had to kind of figure.
So all the YouTube tutorials I would look up, there'd be guys doing all their EQ and compression in Pro Tools or Logic or something, and then I'd have to like translate that to, all right, what does this knob do? What is this knob? You know.
What a great way to learn, though.
I guess I look back at it now, and I appreciate what that learning on something like that did for me, because it was very, very bare bones. If the song didn't sound good on that equipment, very limited, you know, not very high tech equipment, if the song didn't sound good there, then you probably didn't have a good song to start out with.
Right.
And that might be why these days I tend to really listen to the song first and then decide what my place is in the song and like what I need to do for it. Because whenever I first started out, I was very limited to what I could use to make a song into a song.
Gotcha.
I think it had 24 total tracks.
You
can only have like one reverb or one delay unless you like printed it or something.
Golly.
So
how many? What session have you done that has the most tracks on it today?
Oh man, I've done. I think I just did a song recently that was huge. It had like 70 vocal tracks alone.
Are you serious?
Yeah. I think that ended up being like 150 tracks.
Did you have to edit all 70 of those vocal tracks?
Yep.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it was a lot.
Holy crap. I could not imagine, dude.
Melodyne is amazing. It is a great tool.
Oh my Lord. 70 vocal tracks. Wow. So it must take a lot of patience and a lot of mental fortitude to be able to do that.
I have gained a lot of patience from doing this.
You've always been a pretty patient person, but I think
I have been a patient person throughout life, but now even more so. Like having to editing is one of my least favorite things to do ever.
Yeah.
Because I do so much of it. I'm kind of a nut whenever it comes to, I guess, being on the grid, like quantization and things like that. It depends on the music. Sometimes you don't have to worry about that, with a folk song or with something with live drums. A lot of times the drummer's already good enough and the performance is good enough where you don't have to worry about that. But with like pop music, for example, getting everything lined up on the grid with your samples and everything, it can get, you have to make sure everything's in line. And whenever you start adding elements like vocals or guitar or things like that, things that aren't samples, you got to get those lined up.
Yeah.
Because if they aren't lined up, then it sounds whack.
For sure, man. We've done, have you ever done any like live recording sessions like without a click track or anything like that? Have you ever done that here?
Yeah, I had Meech Pango did that whenever they did their live at the Hang. They just
no click.
Yeah, they just
That's
performed.
Cool. Yeah. It was very interesting because when we started, we learned everything multi-track. Like that's what we were supposed to do. That's what we thought. And then when we went to music school, like the standard was to do like have the full band in there all at once and do it live, which is kind of weird to me.
That's what Nashville does too. A lot of Nashville country recordings are drummer, bass, piano, organ, keys,
rhythm section,
guitar, rhythm section, recording at once,
which is really cool.
Yeah, I mean I love doing that. It's a fun way to record. I've done it plenty of times here. Again, it kind of depends on the song, like what you're trying to achieve. If you do that with a math rock band with really technical guitar parts or drum parts, then trying to edit that together can be a lot harder.
You're right.
Then
unless you're Nautilus,
Oh my God, dude, those guys are nuts. Those guys are so good, dude.
It's a Fort Worth band, right?
Yeah. Dude, the first time I saw them, I couldn't believe that they were just from around here. Like I thought they were some crazy band from California or something like that were on tour.
Yeah.
That would just came through town and they sounded so professional and like so trained. Like I thought they were these college graduate musicians, and turns out they're just out of high school. And they all went to the same high school. They went to the same high school as Meech, actually.
Oh, wow. That's right.
Yeah, small world.
Meech Pango, right?
Yeah. And, dude, they blew me away with how good they were. I actually considered live recording them.
Nice.
Like, for their record. But, again, made the decision to multi-track it, and that ended up being the right decision. I feel like that would have been one of those things. Like if I would have live recorded Nautilus and listened back to it a year or two later, I would have thought back like, I should have multi-tracked it. So.
Yeah, but what you said about that you thought that they were from California or something like that. It kind of reminds me of like another instance when we were in school and we were graduating. All of our friends were going to New York or L.A. or Nashville or Atlanta or whatever. And I think we both kind of felt that pressure to follow that.
Oh, absolutely.
But if I remember correctly, this was the reason why you wanted to come back here, was because this place became available.
Yeah, it maybe even more so with the recording industry, like being a producer engineer. You want to go where the opportunity is. Like, you want to go where the artists, like the artists are recording, and where the music is. Like, Nashville obviously has a huge recording scene.
Yeah.
So if you want gigs, you are pressured into going to one of those places and working your way up the studio ladder.
Yeah.
For me, someone who had been doing recording and engineering for 3 or 4 years before Berkeley, I was already used to being, the head guy, and I valued having my input valued.
Sure.
It was the most fun part of recording for me was the interactions that I got to have with musicians and their artistry, and being a part of that was, that's what I do this for. Mm-hmm. And the whole recording industry in California and Nashville and other places is, you set your hourly block of 4 hours, 8 hours, and you get an engineer issued out to you, and then you get in, you load in, do your stuff, and then get out.
Yep.
Not every studio does that, but a majority of them don't do recording the way that I like to do recording. So it was really tough for me. I'd even gone to interview for internships and things like that while we were doing our schooling, and I just didn't. One of the interviewers literally asked me, he's like, are you okay with being a runner? Like, are you okay with being the guy that gets us coffee and gets us, food?
Yeah.
And he said, it's okay if you aren't. I'm asking you straight up.
That's a legitimate
and
question.
I'm glad that he did, because it made me think about what I wanted to do with my production and engineering. And being a runner was not that. So the way that I got around that was go back to my clientele that was already in Texas.
Well, yeah, and steering your own ship.
Yeah.
And I want to go back to what you were saying about, you're talking about the process of getting into or booking a recording session, and like you get issued an engineer and whatever. That seems really impersonal to me.
Yeah. Impersonal is a word for it. I guess I get the time is money sentiment.
Yeah.
I really get it. Sometimes it bites me in the butt, because I invest more time than I should into a project. And I know some engineers just are all about get in, get out, come prepared, do your thing, and get out.
Yeah.
But for me, I really, really, really value the creative process. So I really like taking my time, and I really like, I get a lot of artists that come in that have had previous studio experience, and they'll tell me that I do things way differently here. Like, it's one of the main things that they mention.
Right.
And this is the only way that I've known how to do recording.
Yeah.
I have done, while we were in school, I would Pro Tools op for an engineer for different people, and kind of play my role the way that you would in a regular studio. But other than that, I never really had like the real studio experience.
Yeah.
Of block times and getting in, getting out. So the way I've always known how to do it was just being involved in the artist's music and really, being personal.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, I think that from what I've been able to notice with you and your I don't want to say clientele, but the bands that you work with, you end up becoming like really good friends with them.
Yeah, it's very rare that I don't create like a friendship doesn't get created between me and the artist.
And I think that's very important.
Yeah. I mean, people are trusting you with their music, and their music is their baby.
Yeah.
And they're trusting me with their baby. And I appreciate that. It's very humbling that you would trust me with your baby.
Mm-hmm.
And I will take care of your baby.
Ben's got your baby. He's got it.
I got your baby.
Well, man, that's awesome. So, you do a lot of drum tracking here.
I do a whole lot of drum tracking.
I'd love to pick your brain about that.
All right.
And
go ahead.
I guess I'm just, first of all, like, what do you expect from drummers whenever they come into the studio?
At the very least, I would love for them to be able to play to a click.
Oh my God, yes.
If you are a drummer and you have trouble playing to a click track
in 2020,
download a click trap app on your phone right now. Put some headphones in, set it to 120, and play a groove for an hour and a half to that click as best as you can. Because if you are an aspiring drummer and you can't play to a click, you are going to have a rough time.
Yeah, it's everything, really.
Yeah, that's obviously that's just one facet of it, but it's such an important thing to be able to do. Like
Mm-hmm.
you have to be able to play in time.
Yeah.
You don't have to play it perfect. You don't have to be a drum machine, but you have to be able to stay on.
Got to be in the ballpark.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, we're human beings, so it's going to waver. Like you might push or pull depending on the section or whatever, or the style of music. But yeah, that's very, very important. I agree with you.
Another thing that I've found that's really important is just, I guess, knowing what your job is like if you're a drummer, knowing what your job is to service the song.
Yeah.
A lot of drummers, if you're tracking for a country song and you bring in your 18-piece kit with your 3 China cymbals and your double kick drum, then you are not thinking about what your place is in the song.
Yeah, right.
You really need to figure out what it is that you need to bring to the song. Not equipment-wise, but equipment-wise too.
Sure, that plays a role.
If the song only needs a kick hat and a snare, dude, don't even bother bringing the toms. Don't bother bringing the ride cymbal. Just bring that kick drum, that snare drum, and that hi-hat, and go to town.
I recently did a session for one of my buddies, and he he wasn't being a jerk about it, but he was just like, I don't want any cymbals on my record. And I was like, fine.
There have been some people.
That's cool.
I have heard. I've never done it myself, but I know of. I've heard some people that like to do that for a lot of recordings.
Yeah.
Like they'll track their cymbals on a completely different take than their kick and snare and their toms. Yeah,
I think it's probably just to give, or probably just easier with the editing process, I would imagine.
I guess I've never tried that. I mean, maybe we should try that sometime.
Sure.
But yeah, that seems like a little bit more work on my end. But maybe that's the next level stuff. Maybe I've been doing it wrong all along.
No, I mean, cymbals are still great, but I think also another thing for him, because it was like folk music.
Yeah.
And I think he was wanting to have a lot more headroom in the frequency range to add in different like textures of like, organs and whatever else.
Yeah.
So, but it was a really cool process.
Yeah, that seems like an interesting challenge to try, especially as a drummer, like trying to like bring what you bring to a song, but without one of your arms or without one of your tools.
That's exactly how I looked at it. It was a challenge, and I mean the setup we had was kick, snare, Tom 1, Tom 2.
Uh-huh.
Barely played the toms. I think I played the toms on maybe 2 songs out of the 9 that I did for him. But I did bring a lot of like little textures. Like I brought like a chain to use and stuff like that. But it was, I mean, I had some things to kind of fulfill a higher frequency, where a tambourine would fit.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was like, this will be really cool. This will be the first session I've ever done with no cymbals.
Yeah.
So bring it on.
Yeah.
You know?
So yeah, I mean, that's be able to play to a click, know what you're servicing in the song, like know what your job is. I guess some general things. Know how to tune your kit.
Yeah, that's hard.
Please have like not dead heads. It doesn't have to be brand new, fresh heads every session, but don't bring in dented, 3-year-old heads that have tape all over them and like.
Unless you're playing like mute math stuff.
Yeah. Well, in that case, you know what you're looking for.
Right.
So, you don't have to worry about that. But, hit the drums with authority.
Amen.
What else? Nothing too flashy. Depends on the music, but
yeah.
Don't do your 30-second note triplet fills in your country song. Yeah, don't dip into that. There's no, like, again, you just know what you're doing for the song. Like, the song's not about you.
Totally.
You are not the song. You are a portion of it. You are the foundation. So if your foundation is dipping into, 30-second note triplets, then your foundation's getting a little rocky.
Man, I could not agree with you more. And that's one of the biggest motivators for me to want to make this podcast is like, I just want to get other musicians' perspectives on drumming. And everybody has different opinions, and art is completely subjective at the end of the day. But I completely agree. And that's how I approach the instrument is like, I look at it more as like I'm serving someone or the song or whatever. I try to put all my ego aside.
Yeah. I think that's one of the big things, not just about drumming, but about music and recording in general, is you're all working together.
Yeah.
You have this thing in your head that you want everyone to listen to.
Mm-hmm.
You have this song, this masterpiece that you hear in your head. And if everyone's not on the same page, then that goal is a whole lot harder to achieve.
Yeah.
So make everyone's life easier. Do some introspection, figure out what you are doing for the song.
Mm-hmm.
Does the song really need that lead guitar part? Does the song really need, that 4-part harmony there? Maybe not. You can track it, sure. But, it's okay to take stuff away.
A lot of times less is more.
I will get emails with songs and like people asking my opinion on songs, and
like songs that they write or
so other songs that other people have recorded, just because they want my opinion on it. And there's so many times where someone will send me something. Usually it's like home recorded stuff or DIY stuff, and they're trying to get into the recording game.
Mm-hmm.
And so many times one of the biggest things I hear is just too much going on.
Yeah.
There's just way too much. You got 3 guitar parts going on and a violin and a lead vocal with 3-part harmony and a bass doing runs underneath. It's like, chill out.
Yeah.
Just that is music, I guess, technically, but it's not music that anyone wants to listen to. It's too overwhelming.
For sure.
Like you gotta simplify like what it is about the song that is working.
Yeah.
And then everything that services the thing that's working in that song, do it.
We were talking a while back about what makes a good song.
Mm-hmm.
We were asking that question, and God, that's a really hard question to answer because there's so many different factors that
Yeah.
go into it. But I guess for me personally, cohesion and a good melody. Like that's really
Good melodies are hard to beat.
what it boils down to me.
But if you were, imagine, the entrance of When the Levee Breaks. Like there's no melody in that.
That's true.
The melody of that song isn't what makes it great.
That is true.
That song
That is
has
such a vibe.
Fat groove at the beginning.
Rest in peace, John Bonham. Oh
Yeah.
my God.
But it has a serviceable melody. I think that song actually is a cover, if I remember correctly.
Oh, I don't know. I have mad respect for Led Zeppelin. I just haven't dove into their catalog over
They have
the years.
a lot of good stuff.
But
you need to go listen to them.
Yeah, John Bonham was a god.
Mhm.
Still is. Like, he passed away like in the 70s and people still sing his praises. He'll live on forever.
But all that to say, like, what going back to what makes a good song or what makes a song good, I feel like it's different for every song. Like, there's so much, even just with melody and rhythm, so many different varieties of things that you can do with those that can make something sound great. That's why there's still brand new music coming out today that sounds awesome.
Yeah, man. So, do you have any drummer horror stories that you can talk about?
That I can talk about?
Obviously, you don't have to say any names.
Yeah, I'll have to avoid that. Man. I do. Yes, that is the short answer. I'll start. I guess I could start with a metal band, and their drummer was a guitar player. He wasn't a drummer. He had been playing drums maybe for like 3 months, which, if you know metal music, you can't be a drummer for 3 months and expect to record a record. For playing drums on a metal record.
Absolutely.
And this guy needed a lot of help. There were times, so we did pre-production with the band. I went to their rehearsal spot, and they would play songs for me, and I would suggest things for them to do. Hey, try this chord progression here. Try this stop here. Just really simple things. But whenever I would try to suggest something for the drummer, he could not respond. Like he didn't know how to do things.
Oh wow! Okay.
Because he got so used to playing it one way that his muscle memory could not do it any other way.
Yeah.
There were points where I would try to suggest something and show, I'm not a drummer at all, but even I was getting on the drum kit and kind of showing him what I meant and what I wanted him to try to do, and it's super simple stuff, and he just could not do it. So it ended up, whenever we finally got to the tracking process, I probably wouldn't even do this these days. If I had a band like that that wasn't up to stuff, I would probably just say you need more practice and wait.
Which you've had to do that before, right?
I've had to do that before, but this was during whenever the studio first opened, so I was really trying to get some work and trying to get my name out there. So I kind of bent over backwards for this band, and that record sounds really, really good now, but it was a painstaking process to get all those drums where I wanted them, where I needed them to get. And obviously with metal music these days, with modern metal, it's got to be on the grid. So a lot of painstaking quantization, a lot of added sample support, and a lot of just... It sounds really good now.
Oh, yeah, I bet.
The end product was good, but the road to get there was painstaking.
I'm sorry.
That's one example. I've had a number of drummers that needed a lot of help, and unfortunately, I wasn't at the position, or I wasn't at the place where I could say no.
Sure.
Technically, and that point in my life, so I kind of just had to I kind of had to fix
just
them.
Deal with it. Yeah.
I had to polish that turd.
Ben is the turd polisher for sure. I've heard some of the things that people have sent you to mix.
Yeah.
I remember one time specifically, we were actually in Boston, and somebody sent you some tracks for you to mix from a different state.
Yep.
And you were like, you're like, come over here and listen to this. And I was like, okay. Okay. So I listened to it. And he goes, and you literally looked at me. You're like, I don't know how I'm gonna fix this.
I don't even remember saying this to you.
Yeah, I remember it. You're like, I literally have no idea. And I honestly was like kind of at a loss for words. I was like, I don't know, man.
Oh, I might remember which one you're talking about.
But obviously we won't say any names.
Yeah.
You
I think I know which one you're talking about.
You figured it out. And I remember you showed me the finished product and I was blown away.
I made that puppy shine. Yeah,
I was so impressed.
That was bad, man. Luckily I've had more good drummers, more good artists than bad.
Yeah.
I don't know if I just lucked out or what, but I feel like my turd polishing days might be behind me. Like I've paid my dues.
Sure.
And I have the ability to say no to projects that I know would involve a lot of turd polishing.
Yeah.
So being able to say no is a very, very nice point to get to in your career.
Well, and being able to say no during a pandemic.
Yeah.
Like from what I know, you haven't really been struggling that much with work.
Yeah. I've had a really good projects actually. I think they've all been pop projects. One of them was like an indie rock, but a lot of pop elements to it, which have just haven't really involved. A lot of those projects end up being just me creating an arrangement, playing most of the instruments on it, and going back and forth with the artist, and just like figuring out a way to bring that song to life.
Mm-hmm.
So it doesn't really involve a whole lot of other people that would, in that case, where I would have to edit or that I would have to record or have to work with. So a lot of those are really, really fun, easy, low stress projects that I love working on.
Good.
And I've gotten a few of those during this whole pandemic thing. It's been really nice.
That's good, man. I'm glad that you're still afloat during all this.
Yeah.
I've read that like a bunch of independent music venues in Boston are shutting down, and I can imagine. Well, I already know a couple in Dallas. They're not independent venues, but they're clubs that I've played at. Yeah. In my career that are closing down. That I'm like, man, those are such great spots, and they're like,
it's a shame.
Yeah, but you know.
Yeah, I do miss going out to the odd show here and there and seeing a live performance, feeling that energy.
Well, and I think I'm hoping that during this time, artists and musicians are just like, while they're quarantining themselves and being locked down, that they are really writing a lot and just working on their craft even more, so that whenever things do finally fully open back up, it's like we're all bats out of hell and gonna.
Yeah, it would be. I am interested to see just the flux of music that's gonna come out of this whole thing. Mm-hmm. I think it's gonna be. I know people are just kind of holed up in their homes, and all they can do is, you know, they have time to themselves. So what do? They make music.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it should be. I am excited to see what all comes out of it.
That's good. Yeah. All right, man. Well, thank you so much for being on the show, dude.
Yeah.
I really appreciate
you for having me.
Yeah, of course. Thank you for your input and everything. What are your websites that our audience can go to check out your stuff?
All right. The studio website, www.thehangstudiostx.com.
TX, as in Texas.
And Instagram, The Hang Studios TX, and same with Facebook. Facebook is The Hang Studios.
And you also have music on Spotify, right? Under your is it Benjamin Barnett? Is that right?
Yeah.
You don't really want people to.
We don't gotta talk about.
Right,
I mean, I'm proud of that music, but I'm working on some new stuff, so I'll wait till I get some new stuff on there before I start throwing that out there.
Sweet. All right. Well, thanks again, Ben.
Yeah.
I'll see you next time.
Sounds good.